Alright, so from the last video, we went from complete the square to this formula. Negative b plus or minus square root b squared minus 4ac over 2a. That's called, that method, this formula here is called the quadratic formula. This method always works, and it takes zero thinking to do it, because all it is plug and play. Remember, you start off with the quadratic equation in standard form. Label A, B, C. Plug them in and work it out. Those are only 3 steps. Step 1, label A, B, C. Actually, remember, has to be in standard form first. Has to be in this standard form first. And then from there, find A, B, and C. Plug into the formula. And step 3, work it out. There's nothing like we did last time where the leading term had to be 1. Nope, it is what it is. Alright, so let's look at some similar ones we did in the past. X squared, this is examples, minus 6x minus 10 equals 0. A is 1, B is negative 6, C is negative 10. So the formula is negative b plus minus b squared minus 4ac over 2a. It's always safe to keep on writing the formula the first step of each question. I don't care if it's 20 questions, I do it all the time so it keeps fresh on your head. Now just plug them in there. Negative, what's b? Is negative 6. B squared, so b is negative 6 squared minus 4 times a times c is negative 10 over 2 times 1. Negative, negative makes it a positive, plus or minus. Negative 6 squared is 36. Negative 4 times 1 is negative 4. Negative 4 times negative 10 is a positive 40 over 2. Six plus or minus 36 plus 40 is 76. Let's see, 76 breaks down to 2 goes into 7 3 times, with 1 left over. 2 goes into 16 8 times. 2 goes into 3 once, with 1 left over. 2 goes into 18 9 times. So it's 2, 2, 19. 2 times 2 times 19. There's a pair, so they can come out in front. Okay, look at the top. You cannot combine these right now because there's a plus or minus. This is one equation. So as that, what do they both have in common? These are 2 terms. What do they both have in common? They both have a 2 in common. Remember, whenever you factor something out, it's like you divide it. 6 divided by 2 is 3, plus or minus. 2 divided by 2 is 1 over 2. The 2's cancel. So we get 3 plus or minus square root of 18. It always works. Let's look at another example that we did. X squared plus 12x plus 11 equals 0. First step, label A, B, C. A is 1, B is 12, C is 11. So negative b plus or minus square root b squared minus 4ac. So you have negative, what's b? B is 12. If it was a negative, I put a parenthesis around it. 12 squared, b is 12, minus 4 times 1 times 11 over 2 times 1. So I go from here to here. So I have negative 12 plus or minus 12 squared. 12 times 12 is 144. Since they're all positive, so the answer is negative. Negative 4 times 1 times 11. 4 times 1 is 4 times 11 is 44. 2 times 1 is 2. Negative 12 plus or minus square root. 144 minus 44 is 100. Square root of 100 is 10. Now we have two numbers. Negative 12 plus 10 over 2. Negative 12 minus 10 over 2. We have to take one of each. Negative 12 plus 10 is negative 2. Over 2 is negative 1. Negative 12 minus 10 is negative 22. Over 2 is negative 11. So far, so good. Let's look at the last one we just did. 2x squared minus 1 equals 3x. So, what's our first step here? Our first step here is label A, B, C. No, first step is to put it in ax squared plus bx plus c. So we got to move this. It has to be equal to 0. So I subtract 3x from both sides. Now I label A, B, C. A is 2, B is negative 3, C is negative 1. Negative b plus or minus b squared minus 4ac over 2a. So b is negative 3. So it's negative of negative 3. Negative 3 squared. 4 times 2 times negative 1. 2 times 2. Negative makes it a positive 3. Plus or minus. Negative 3 squared is 9. A negative times negative is a positive. 4 times 2 is 8. Plus times 1 is 8. 2 times 2 is 4. Nine plus 8 is 17 over 4. Those are your two answers. That's the quadratic formula. Negative b plus or minus b squared minus 4ac over 2a. All right. Now, the beautiful thing about this equation, it tells us a lot. Once you plug in all the numbers inside here, for example, this equation right here is called a discriminant. That's the b squared minus 4ac. What it does, it tells us the number of real solutions, or actually number of x-intercepts of the graph, because it's inside the square root. Remember I said earlier, with quadratic equations, there were three possibilities. You could either have one solution, no solutions, or two solutions. This tells us what's going to happen. If the discriminant b squared minus 4ac is equal to 0, if it's equal to 0, then all we're left with is negative b over 2a. One solution. If b squared minus 4ac is less than 0, or just negative, can you take a square root of a negative number? No. So if this is negative, then we have no solutions. If b squared minus 4ac is greater than 0, it's a number, then we're going to have the plus or minus. So we have two solutions. Again, this is all from the equation. This is all basic math too. We have our standard form equation: ax squared plus bx plus c. Take b squared minus 4ac, take all this stuff, and determine how many solutions are we going to have. If we have no solutions, then we're not looking for any answers. But we know what the graph's supposed to look like now. It's not going to cross the x-axis. So that's the first thing. That's the discriminant. Another thing from this thing, which we're going to learn later on in this chapter, if this is gone, we have one solution. The solution is that point there. Well, that's the lowest part of the graph. So that's called the vertex. So this equation here is the x value of the vertex. But that's going to be discussed later on. All right. What if I gave you an equation like this? It's no longer quadratic, it's now quartic. But this equation is what's called quadratic in form. ax squared plus bx plus c equals 0. Quadratic in form. What does that mean? 3 terms. Check. Here's the important part. In the quadratic, what do you notice about the exponents here? That's 2, that's 1. So this exponent is half that exponent. If that's the case, if this middle term is half this first term, then it's quadratic in form. 2 is half of 4, so this is quadratic. In other words, with this one, what we could do now, when we do this, it's called substitution. Let's say instead of x we use w. W equals x squared, because that's our first term we want. X to the 4th is actually x squared squared. X squared is x squared to the 1st power. So, anywhere I see an x squared, I put a w. So I have w squared. This is w. It's the x squared squared. Here's an x squared, so I just put a w. Remember this, we'll come back to this at the end. So now we have an equation we look like, that we know what it looks like. It's the same equation, we just changed the way it looks. So let's factor it. Again, w, w. Look at the second sign, it's a plus, so they're both the same. They're the first sign, they're both minus. What times what is 4? When you add them, you get 5. 4 and 1. 4 times 1 is 4. 4 plus 1 is 5. Set them both equal to 0. Solve. So I get w equals 4. W equals 1. But what is w? W is actually x squared. But remember, this equation says we're supposed to have 4 answers. So let's solve for x. Square root both sides. Those cancel. Remember, put a plus or minus in front of that since we square rooted it squared. Square root of 4 is 2. Those cancel. Put a plus or minus. Square root of 1 is 1. So x is equal to positive and negative 1, positive and negative 2. Those are our 4 answers. So in this method, what we do is, no matter what we start off with, make it so it looks like something we're used to. For example, if I had x plus 3 x to the 1/2 plus 2. Is this quadratic in form? Remember, to test, is this exponent, which is 1, half of that, is that? So here's 1, half of that, is that? Yep. So this is quadratic in form. So what I do, I take w equals x to the power 1/2. Okay, you asked me why to get 1/2. The middle term is the most important one. Important when we start doing these things. So I set w equal to the middle term. When we solve these things, what do we solve for? W? W is the middle term. So whatever the middle term is, once you see it's quadratic in form, take the middle term, set that equal to w. Set w equal to the middle term. So what do we have here? It's 1. So in order to get, what do I have to do with 1/2 to get 1? I double it. So I have w squared. X to the 1/2 is w, so that stays there. Now it's quadratic in form. So I put w. Look at the second sign, they're plus, so they're both the same, they're both pluses. What times what is 2? When I add them, I get 3. 2 and 1. So I got w plus 2 equals 0, w plus 1 equals 0. So after moving these around, w equals -2, w equals -1. So anywhere I see a w, I go back to 1/2. Okay, now what? How do I get rid of this 1/2 here? If I square both sides, (1/2) times 2 over 1 is 1. So those cancel, so I have x. -2 squared is 4. Squares cancel. -1 squared is 1. So those would be the answers for my x's if I put them in there. That's called quadratic in form. Alright, good luck everybody. I'll do the homework assignments in a second.